Welcome back to Diary of a Medium Stories from the Spirit World. And today I have a beautiful guest with me, Samantha Liew. Samantha is known professionally as Samantha the Clair. She's a psychic medium, Akashic Records reader, spiritual mentor, and intuitive development coach. So she helps people gain clarity, strengthen their intuition, and navigate life through greater confidence with a psychic mediumship, Akashic Records reading, coaching, and spiritual development workshops. She also mentors aspiring psychic mediums in developing their gifts and their connection to spirit. Hey, Samantha, so lovely to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Em. How are you this morning?
I am good this morning. Yes, just, doing the runaround of the school run and that kind of thing. And then back here to have this beautiful conversation. There's got to be a balance between your 3D and your 5D somewhere, right?
Definitely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on and having a chat with me today. Can you even imagine that when we met through June Mac's little psychic school, shout out to June Mac for bringing a lot of us together, that we would both be here these years later doing what we're doing now?
Yeah, I think I remember you posted something about a mediumship practice group, and I was like, oh, I actually need that, and I thought that was really cool, that practice group you had, and you brought in all these, there are all these other psychic mediums looking to practice. So I was like, this is so cool. One's in America, another's in Canada, then Australia, and I'm in Malaysia. So I just thought it was really cool you're bringing all these people together too.
Absolutely. That just actually blows me away, even that you've said that back to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I do that. Yes. And just, bringing people together, isn't it? It's actually really awesome. And I think since then we follow each other's journey, on socials and what we're doing. And I love all of your skits that you do on socials. I actually love them. So, I know that whoever's listening to this at the end, you're going to go and find Samantha's socials and have a look at her skits that she does on there. I love that. It's very brave. It's very brave, but also very fun as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to, I guess, share with my listeners, your journey. I know a little bit about your journey from our connection, and I guess what brought you down this avenue to do what you're doing now, working as a psychic medium. And I actually love to share the fact that everybody sort of gets here from a completely different space or angle, different things that happen to them that bring them to where they are now. But I know that you had shared with me that when you were a little girl, we normally, a lot of us have something when we're, younger that we remember that seemed a little bit different, or, that we remember, mine was, seeing the girl that the side of my bed at 16. But I know that you had said when you were sort of a little girl, you were hearing voices while you were growing up. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so ever since I could remember, I'd always hear this lady. She sounded just like my mum. I'd always hear call my name, say Samantha, Samantha. And I remember there were many times I'd be home alone or in a room alone. I remember this one specific incident where my mum said, I'm going to the supermarket, and I was home alone. I might have been about 10 at the time, at a decent age where you can be home on your own for an hour. And then I heard that voice called Samantha, really loud. And I thought, oh, it's mum back from the supermarket. That's really quick. And when I came down, she wasn't there. There was no car, nothing. So I thought that was weird. And it was something I kept hearing for years. And then I pretty much gaslit myself into thinking, I'm just making this up, which I think we all do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so did you ever find out who that was communicating with you?
I actually did. It was many years later, so probably almost 20 years later. I had a friend, she at a sound bath. She's quite clairvoyant, and she saw this lady touching my head. And it was funny because I felt this lady touching my head. I was like, that's really weird. And she said, there's this lady touching your head. I think she wants to talk to you. So when we connected, I found out that's the lady who's been calling my name the whole time. And it's really interesting. So she'd been there the entire time. And yeah, she sounds a bit similar to my mum. My mum's from New Zealand. So whenever I get spirit come through on my left-hand side, because I come from a mixed background, I get different accents. I get, of course, the New Zealand accent. And then, of course, I've got English and Irish ancestry. So sometimes random ancestors come through and I'm like, who is this? I don't know who they are. Or my dad's side, the Chinese Malaysian or the Chinese accent if they go far back to China. So it's just a muddled up accents. And the other side, it just depends if they're chatty. Yeah.
That's super, super interesting. And did you ever like share that with people like as you were growing up that you could like hear this voice or you're hearing voices, or I know you just said that you gaslit yourself, or is it something that you kind of kept to yourself?
It was something I kept to myself because I think part of me thought people are probably going to think I'm crazy, and maybe I am a bit crazy. So I'm just going to keep it to myself and I said, no, I'm just making that up. Yeah. But funnily enough, my mum actually can hear things too. It's only when I told her that I can hear things, she said, I thought it was, I can hear things too. She was telling me, I was like, oh, she said, I thought it was just me going crazy. A psychic told me that I have a gift and I'm not crazy, and my mum has it. So I thought I'd test it out and ask her, and she said, no, I can hear things. So yeah, runs in the family.
Yes, isn't that interesting as well? Because I hear this a lot, and maybe you do too as well, like especially when people have lost loved ones and then they start to have some kind of signs of visitations from them. A lot of the time they keep it to themselves because they think, people are gonna think I'm crazy. People are gonna, think I've lost my mind, or maybe I'm just so much in grief that I'm making up, or I want it to happen. So, I'm just making up the sense that it is happening to me. Like I actually hear that quite a lot from people that I do readings for, but people that I connect with, even people that I've interviewed on this podcast who have lost people who said the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they, and then they don't share it. And then maybe when they do, then they find out other people are having similar experiences, right? So, it's not that you're weird or you're going crazy. It's actually that a lot of people are kind of frightened to talk about it because it's in that space of, oh, like, that's not real, or, that you there might be something wrong with you. Space.
Definitely. I think I didn't want to tell my mum as well. I remember I saw a lady in my mirror, like as a 10-year-old, and that was pretty creepy as a kid. And I remember I told her, she didn't believe her. So I knew there was no way she'd probably believe the voices. So I thought, yeah, maybe she's right. Maybe I'm making it up, but no. But
yeah,
it's to know I'm not crazy, and probably a lot of people aren't too.
Absolutely, 100%. And is that something, did you feel like you shut that down when you were younger because like you didn't think anyone would believe you, or you just thought maybe you were making it up, or is it something that was consistently with you?
So I think I wouldn't say shut it down. Like I would still get things pop up, but it's more like I would kind of like, I think whenever I'd hear the voice, I kind of like sort of file that away, but oh no, I'm just hearing random things. I have seen shadows as well. I remember I went to the old Melbourne jail and I saw shadows on the wall. I remember I saw a lady with a bun carrying a baby on the back, like that Victorian style, and there was no one carrying a backpack. So I've seen random things. So I've never completely ruled out like this, there's something beyond this world. I've always believed in it because I've had supernatural experiences. Yeah. So it's not something I'd completely rule out. But in terms of thinking of myself as a psychic medium, I don't think I ever would have called myself that. Maybe intuitive, but not a psychic medium. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that as well. 100%. Like someone that's quite intuitive, I would have always said that, someone that, your friends come to for advice because you give really good advice, right? Because obviously you're intuitive, you just don't really know it. So if you you are someone and you'll listen to this and you're like the person that your friends come to or your family for advice, maybe that's because you're intuitive and a little bit psychic. But I had the similar experiences actually in January. I went over to Perth and with my son and my husband, and we went to the jail there. And because my son he's like loving paranormal things and things like that. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And he's 15. So, but I could go through certain aspects of that jail. But when we came to where they did the hangings, like I was in that room and I was like, oh, like I was not okay. I was feeling really unwell and had to go and stand outside for some fresh air. So I was like, yeah, this is definitely not the place for me to be.
No, I remember feeling the energy when I was in the old Melbourne prison. This was when I was about 19, so well before I knew about like
Yeah.
psychic media. And I just remember feeling really uneasy. You could just feel it, the sadness. I just remember feeling the sadness and the heaviness. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for feeling sick. It's not a great place to be. Um,
Yes, no, it's not. But I was like trying to be brave because at first I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not going. And then I was like, okay, let's give this a go. Let's see what happens. I wanted to circle back around as well. I know that obviously, you've mentioned that you felt like you had the voices, you were connected, you may be intuitive, but never really connected I'm a psychic medium to, the experiences that you were having. But I'd love you to share with the audience that there was kind of a catalyst. I guess we all seem to have a catalyst for this spiritual awakening. I mean, I know some people are like born psychic mediums that have kind of known and grown up with it because their family are in, doing that kind of work openly. But, you mentioned that your divorce actually became the catalyst for your spiritual awakening. So I'd love you to, share with our audience, like take you back to that time, like what was happening and how that came about, that the spiritual awakening was connected to your actual divorce.
Yeah, so I remember it wasn't a happy marriage for quite some time, but I think that, yeah, so this would have been in 2023 when my spiritual awakening happened. So everything happened very quickly. So I remember I was probably at the lowest point in my life. Like I just was in a job I didn't enjoy, in a marriage I wasn't happy in, and I had pretty dark thoughts. It was very, very dark. And I remember I kept seeing orange butterflies for some reason. And I was like, and I just knew there was going to be a massive shift. I was like, I don't know what it is. And nothing's making sense at all. But I was like, but I know there's going to be a massive shift. And I remember feeling, I was just crying over the small things. Then I went to this meditation slash yoga wellness studio. My sister referred me to them, and I thought I need some energy healing. I was like, I've heard about this stuff, I've never experienced it, but for some reason I knew I had to get some sort of healing, which is weird because my body the energy felt so heavy, and I've always believed in energy but didn't know the details of it. So when I went to her, she did a Reiki healing on me and I stopped crying over the small things. So I started going for meditations and sound baths, and that helped me sort of get through, my pretty depressive period. And funnily enough, 6 weeks after that, when it started sort of somewhat opening up, so I started reading tarot cards. I probably should have started off with oracle cards, but I taught myself how to read tarot cards because that's what I do. I'm a bit gung-ho. I jump into different things.
I love tarot cards.
Very, very sassy. I love it. So yeah, it was great. It was great. So I started delving into that, and I found I was like, oh, got a bit of a knack for this. And it was only 6 weeks later, after starting this little journey, I found out he was having an affair, and that was actually a massive relief for me in a way. And then and the craziest thing was the way I found out was through a friend who I hadn't spoken to in 10 years, and she managed to get it to another friend who had a better idea of what was going on. And the way I got the information just before I thought I want to get my facts right, I was able to get, I mean, not that you should be snooping, but I was able to get the passwords correct. I was like, someone's giving me the information. It doesn't make sense. That was definitely spirit. Got all the information, and then at least I was ready. So I was prepared to confront him about it. And of course, I think when I left him, of course, it was probably one of the most difficult periods of my life. But I think to instead of and then I moved back in with my mum, which is nice just to have that support and that from her as well. And she's been fantastic. And then I started getting back into reading tarot cards, and I found so every day after work, I come home before bedtime, I'd shuffle these tarot cards and I'd ask people on my Instagram, or was it all my friends? I'd say, would you, who wants a free tarot reading? I'm just doing practice. And of course, I had like a list of like over 30 people who were like, me. And yeah, I was actually quite surprised I had a knack for it. I was like, oh, I must just be really intuitive, and I was scared. They were saying this makes sense. And then, oh my God, this happened. So-and-so, they've got a new girlfriend. You predicted that correct. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah. So yeah. And I found I had a knack for it. So tarot was actually pretty much the beginning. And that actually sort of, I think, practicing reading for myself and for others, I actually found that really fun, and that became a hobby. And that was really a way for me to, I suppose, distract myself from, being sad about the divorce. And also, I think learning to trust my intuition, because there were many times during the marriage and probably even before the marriage where I just ignored my intuition many, many times.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And isn't it like when you think about it, when you're meant to receive something, or when you're meant to know something or whatever, spirit have a way of being able to put the pieces together for you, don't they? Like, I find that over and over. It's like things will reveal itself at the right time. So, you saying that a friend of yours had information like who you never spoke to for 10 years that got it to someone else that got it to you is like, wow, like the fact that that came around. And do you truly believe that, I guess your opinion on this, like spirit knew how unhappy you were, you needed to get out of there, and a way was presented to you of exiting that marriage where it made it more like not easy, if you know what I mean, but easier to walk away?
Definitely. I think I remember thinking, I've got to try hard in this marriage. I feel guilty if I leave him and that. But once I saw that, I was like, I didn't feel guilty. I was like, that was exactly what I needed. Yeah, I think because I
allowed it.
Yeah, because I'm the type, I think, I believe, you should try to make it, try to make it work. And I was like, I'm going to make it work. But when I found out about this, I was like, I don't need to. And I feel that was the perfect time, because I think I'd been in Malaysia for about a year. I moved here to actually work in the family business just to get involved. And funnily enough, before we moved over, and even before we got married, I had dreams of him running off with another woman for years. And I was like, and of course, how I like to gaslight myself. I was like, no. I was like, no. And I was like,
Yes.
no, I'm just being crazy. But that was spirit to give me signs. And I did have little intuitive nudges here and there, but I thought, no, I've got to trust I've got to trust him. I mean, there's a reason we got married. We didn't have a cheap wedding. He got me a nice, expensive ring, and we're living together. So this is crazy. That's what I thought. Yeah, but I think spirit definitely told me at the right time. They gave me the exact information, let it land on my lap, because I think they knew, okay, she's ready to leave and she will be okay. And I think it happened.
Cool.
I think if it had happened maybe when I was in Australia, I probably would have struggled. But I think being able to just move, pack up myself, move straight into my mum's house and get that emotional support, that I think that was probably the best timing ever. Yeah. So
divine timing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely believe that.
And, when we look back as well, you're not going to be the only one, right? Gaslighting yourself. Like so many people do the same thing, right? They don't trust because they believe, like I've gone into this marriage, I have to make it work. I owe it. And then you think about the money that was spent, the things and all of that sort of stuff. But, I love how this really did play out for you, I guess, in the fact that you were really unhappy. And I think when everything around, or certainly for me, when I've been in positions where everything around me feels like it's falling apart, something's happening for you in there. You just maybe can't see it when you're in there, right? And then it all comes to fruition is you move through the pieces that you have to move through, I guess.
Definitely. That's what it was. And although I think but it's quite interesting because even before we got married, I had this weird knowing that the marriage wasn't going to last, but I was like, I had to go through with
Mm,
it, not to please anyone, but I just feel I
mm,
had to go through it. So maybe it's at a soul level I need it. But for some reason, I knew I would be okay. I was like, even if we get divorced, I'm going to be more than okay. Like, it's going to be fine. You just have to go through with it. And now I know why I had to go through with it, because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be running this business. I would have unlocked my gifts, and I probably wouldn't have met all these amazing people, including you as well. So that it was all meant to happen. And to be honest, in a way, I can thank him for it. If I had to
yeah.
meet someone, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I like that as well, right? Because I think part of the spiritual awakening and, doing the work, on yourself and getting yourself through what you went through allows you to look back and think, okay, what is it that I learned from this? What is it I needed to know, rather than holding on to something else, like the unhappiness or the anger or whatever. And like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, but being able to move through that, I think, is definitely the gift of being awake. I don't know how you feel about that. Does that feel true to you?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, of course, I was very angry with him for quite some time. There were other
Yeah.
things I found out and that were happening during the marriage, which I was not very happy with. But I think looking back, I think because seeing where I was then to where I am now 3 years ago, I don't think I would have imagined myself being a psychic medium, running my own business full time, having international clients, having, like a really good, amazing work-life balance. Like I can go to yoga on a Thursday morning, yeah, so
Mm.
yeah, that's something I think I could not have imagined. So yeah, I think looking back, like I have there's no regrets, definitely no regrets. Like it was meant to happen the way it did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I do love that perspective. And, so talking about sort of stepping into that and what you're doing now. So, obviously you've left your marriage, you went back to live with mum, you had the support there. Tell me about like the next step of that. How did you begin to kind of then step into, you said you were doing like little tarot readings, or, people were getting like coming back to you and saying, oh my God, this happened. So how did that progress for you, and for you to sort of fully move into what you're doing now?
So I was having a play around with different modalities. I learned how to do Reiki, and that actually expanded my psychic gifts too. I started to hear the voices started getting louder, started getting more things come to me. So, and then I found out about the Akashic Records. For those of you who don't know, it's like an energetic library. You can say it's like in the cloud, like Apple has things in the cloud, and it can look at past lives, future possibilities, guidance, your soul's purpose. It's amazing, but it's kind of like you need consent to open someone else's Akashic Records. So it's like you don't just walk randomly into someone's house. You've got to say, hey, can I come round? It's the same thing because
Yes.
it's your turf, it's your space. So, I can't invade
Yeah.
it unless you're like, yes, yes, please come. Yeah, so I've always been fascinated with history. That was my favorite subject in school because, it's a different time. It's like reading a story just that it actually did happen. And then I came across this course on Instagram. I think Jessica Lynchy was sharing this other lady's course, and I reached out. I had a good feeling about it. I was like, I'm just going to try. I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to access it, but let's give it a go. And I was quite surprised I had a knack for it. So I was able to, that's when I started to get things clairvoyantly, because at the time until I think I start practicing on you in June, I think I was only able to get things clairvoyantly in the Akashic Records. I could see past lives, I could get the detail of that. And I enjoyed it. And I remember I got a reading from this lady as well. She said to me, 12 months from now, you're going to be doing this full time. This was in January 2024. I was like, no way, no, this is just a hobby. No way, no. And my friends go, you need to set up a business. This is really good. You're so good. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. This is for fun. And then I had a bit of an incident at work, which was not a, was it, well, I didn't have the best day. It was not a very pleasant experience I had. And I was quite angry. I felt disrespected. And I thought, I'm going to set this up on the side. And the next time this thing happens, that's when I know I'm going to jump in full time. And of course, I was right because I'm psychic and it happened. So set it up in February 2024 when I started delving I started doing Akashic Records readings and tarot readings, and then I moved and then I did a little mediumship course. Yeah, so and in November 2024 was when I took the leap of faith getting into it. And then of course, I think last year was when my mediumship decided to really take off. I think practicing with you in June, like that was like a massive help. So thank you so much for that, M2, for helping me get to where I am. Those
Yeah.
practice groups were really, really amazing. Yeah. So now it's like, so
Nice.
yeah. So now mediumship's my favorite because it's like, oh, like I really love it. And I'm sure you, I mean, you obviously love it too. That's why you
I
kind of,
love it. I
yeah.
know. I love it. I do. I do. Thank you for sharing all of that stuff as well. And isn't it funny how a lot of us think, no, we're just going to do this a little bit on the side. Like I'm just kind of dipping my toe in for me. And that's how I started my whole journey. I was just like, I want to just see if there's anything in this, like, because I was having all these experiences. And then, yeah, looking at what's going on now. Like, just finished my first Bali retreat, and you're like, wait, what? Like, if somebody had said that to me even 12 months ago, I'd be like, no, you're crazy. You're crazy. And I love that we've allowed ourselves to evolve as well. And this comes back to intuition, isn't it? Lots and lots of people have a dream or an idea or a thing that they might want to do, and they're like, oh, we'll push it to the side or we'll get to it, or and it just goes to show you that if you trust the things that are coming in the path in front of you, and you sort of, I like to call them, pick up the breadcrumbs, right, from spirit, and follow the journey where it can lead you, definitely, leaving a job, working full time in your business, doing something that you absolutely love as well. So do you think there was any particular moment? I mean, you just sort of, I guess maybe you just mentioned the work situation, where, you had an experience, you realized, I just can't ignore this any longer. This is where I'm meant to be. Was that mainly around your work situation and feeling, disrespected there?
Yeah, so it was a mix of definitely, yeah, it was a mix. I was pretty much keen to disrespect, but I think that was confirmation. It was time, and I knew that. And even my mum, I mean, she's somewhat open to this, but she knew that I ran my business on the side, and she thinks it's awesome. Like, you can make your money doing this. She said, follow your dreams, just do it, just take the leap of faith. And I did. So I'm so glad I did. And the funny thing was, the moment I took that leap of faith, I thought, yep, I'm leaving. I'm going to focus on this. The wellness studio who I went to for, meditation, sound baths and Reiki, they actually reached out to me because I get along quite well with the owners, and they actually helped me get through my divorce. They're super lovely. The studio is called Ohana Jara, if anyone's ever passing through Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
Really beautiful studio. And they knew about me developing my psychic mediumship stuff, and they said, would you like us to represent you? You can get clients through us and run workshops. And I was like, yes. So I started getting more clients through them. Like, people are like, oh, they've got an in-house psychic medium. I was like, yeah. So yeah, that started to come through. Yeah. So it was just crazy, just going, okay, I'm going to do it. And it's kind of like the universe is like, okay, we've got your back here. Like, you're finally doing it.
Yes, I love that. Oh my God. Like, honestly, I just love this shit. I just love it. And you can't make that up, can you? Like, you can't make it up. And I think the biggest thing, that I always say to people is it's just about making the decision. Like, once you make the decision, the doors can start opening. But when you're in that stuck in the hold where, I was doing the same, balancing this with, my beauty business and, trying to fit it in. And then I remember being at the same point where I was like, I've built this beauty business, but if I don't let it go, I can't make space for this. And, that was quite a big decision for me because I'd built this business. So I was like, you have clients, like it's, you're doing really well, but this is pulling me so much more here. But how can I let this go? But I think trusting that when you let it go, that spirit have got you, and exactly like you just said, coincidentally, this place needed this, came to you, and then all of a sudden you got clients through there. And my journey started with June Mack asking me, will you run a mediumship masterclass in my community?
Wow. Oh my
That's how it
God.
started.
That's crazy. So it kept
And
them there.
yeah. And when I had her on my podcast, we were talking about it. And I was like, do you know that that was the catalyst to everything that I'm doing now? Because I remember when you asked me, I was like, me? Like, wait, what? Like, you want me to do that? And she was like, yeah. And I thought, okay, well, I guess, like, why not? Like, if she's seen something in me before I seen it in myself, you know, to go there and to do that. And that became how all of a sudden, after I ran that masterclass, people start asking me to teach them. I never ever decided to actually teach. It actually really found me. And, a little bit, I guess, where you are. And I guess a lot of people could probably have a similar story, right? Because you said yes, and then you opened the door to allow yourself to receive whatever was, coming for you.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's crazy how once you go, okay, and then more doors open. I think that's just surprising. It's just interesting, like the way the universe supports you. It's like you are supported. You just need to trust that you're supported. And I think both our stories are definitely a testament to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people they just, the humanness in us or the practicality or whatever that might be fights it, right? There's this like fight that's going on. Well, I can't do that. Like I even remember, having that conversation with my husband, and he's like, but you've done all this work and built this business. What, are you just going to let it go? Like, what does that look like, And it just didn't sound rational, like to anyone. Like even people around me in my circle were like, what? Like, you're going to do what? Like, as though I'd sort of gone mad. But I always remember thinking, I can always go back to that. If this doesn't work out, I can always go back to that. It's a skill. I have a skill like that I can go to. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything because I built it before I could do it again. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was just thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, I can go and get a job in calls. Like, like that kind of, feeling that I'm not going to be without, like I'm always going to be able to have money or have employment or whatever that might be, I think that helps people around me kind of come to terms with that situation as opposed to me.
That's so cool. You just believed in yourself. You're like, nope, I don't really care. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, and you're right. The jobs are always going to be there. I mean, if I wanted to return to HR, I come from an HR background, so not the happy side of HR, like the investigations,
Conflict.
terminations. Yeah, not the fun part. So this kind of works a lot nicer. You get to say nicer things. So.
Definitely, definitely. And do you think, in the beginning you talked about obviously doing your sound baths, doing your meditation, doing all those stuff that helped you through your divorce. And is that something that you feel like, continuing to do that work on yourself has got you to where you are now?
Definitely, yeah. I feel that it's definitely helped me get to where I am. And even then I'm still, I think as healers and readers, we're always forever going through uncovering things. But I think also these experiences have sort of helped the kind of clients I've attracted to. I've been attracting women thinking of leaving their husbands, going through divorces as well, heartbreaks, people going through spiritual awakenings. So, and when they hear my story, I've had some women hear my story. They're like, I'm going to book a reading with you because of this, or I'm feeling a bit lost. And I think even some they're going, I'm going through a spiritual awakening. One of my clients, she came to me for a reading and she decided to take up coaching with me. She's amazing. It's just amazing how quickly she's just leveled up. But she said she can't talk to anyone about what she does because her friends were about, what is this? So like, it's kind of like, and even sometimes because we do our things via Zoom, sometimes her husband will peek through and then she'll just kind of like hide my face. So she's sort of in the closet still.
Still in the closet. Yeah. And look, a lot of us start there, right? A lot of us start there being in the spiritual closet. But I love that you've shared this actually, because I tell my students this all the time. Like, we are our own first clients. We are. So, because we have a point of reference energetically, we attract people who have gone through or are going through something that we have gone through because there's an energetic match. That's how I feel about it, how I see it. It's like there's something in our energy field that knows, is familiar with each other. And that's why you will always end up having people that come to you that have had or going through experiences that you're going through as a reader or a healer or whatever. Like when I was doing coaching through like healing programs, I'd have people come to me, share them stories, and like literally I could be sitting telling my own story. Like it was so very similar to things I experienced growing up or things that I've had happen in my life. And then I realized there was a pattern of that. And that's our superpower, isn't it? Because there's that energetic match to what they're going through. So the frequency, you can hold the frequency of that. That's kind of how I feel about it. How do you feel about that? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. Definitely. A lot of my clients tend to be women, but I think that's pretty common in the space as well. Yeah, a lot of them, I do definitely agree with that. They've got similar frequency to you. They come to you. I think some of my clients, I think some of them have unfortunately had some negative experiences with some readers. I live in Southeast Asia, and of course, I think I follow probably a more Western approach to doing psychic mediumship.
Yeah.
And it's probably in the culture here where they don't really filter things. It's just part of the culture. But there are things that, maybe you shouldn't predict, like death or cancer. I tell my clients straight up, please don't ask me when you're going to die. Please don't.
Yes.
And then they said, you're not going to predict those things. I was like, no. Then they said, well, we've gone to readers and they predicted those. I'm like, no. Oh, no. That's not on. So some of them, they come through a bit skeptical. So when they walk out, they're like, okay, great. Because I think at the end of the day, I'm quite a hopeful person, trying to see the positive in everything. And a lot of my clients who come to me are those who want to see the hope, want that certainty, and it's quite similar to me. But you do attract people who are quite similar to you. A lot of my clients are quite, they're quite well educated. They're doing well for themselves, but they're also open to this other realm, this other world. And some of them have had, like I was saying, similar experiences to me, divorces, maybe some similar childhoods, or, feeling like they're in the spiritual closet or they're going insane. Like my coaching client I mentioned earlier, she thought she was going insane till I was like, you're not actually.
No. Yeah, this actually is normal.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're not.
Welcome to more normality.
Exactly. And I've had her do some practice readings on some sitters, and she was bam, bam, bam accurate. So she's like, you guys are not lying, are you? I'm like, no, why would we be? I didn't even know this about the sitter. I didn't even know this. We just look at her like, what is this? So, yeah. So it's nice to know she's not. She now knows she's not gaslighting herself.
Yes, definitely. And also just having a safe space to, I think, investigate that side of yourself. Explore was the word I was looking for, not investigate. I was like, that word didn't sound right. Explore that side of yourself. Like I know for me, like when I started it, I was lucky that there was kind of a women's circle like next to me that was doing sort of meditations and things. And then the girl that was running that started to do more like spiritual circles, like meet your spirit guides or like your chakras. And I started to go to a group, and it was the only place where I felt like I could talk about the things that were happening to me, because I didn't feel safe to do that in, my immediate circle at that particular time. And I think, having someone like you that people can come to, they can explore that side of themselves, still be in the closet if they need to. Like we all know she's not going to be there forever, right? Because that we've walked the path already and explored that. And I think going back to doing the work, that's why I truly believe, this spiritual path opens you up to doing the work, whatever that work is for you, to fully step into who you really are rather than having to hide or filter yourself. How did that play out for you? So when you said your mum was like really quite supportive, what happened like in your community of people when you actually did step out on that? Did you have that support, or did you feel, that people didn't like it?
think surprisingly, I had quite a fair bit of support. I was quite supportive. I do have some friends who don't believe in the stuff, but they were still quite open. They're like, "Oh, how's your business going?" and that. But a lot of them surprisingly were quite supportive. A lot of my friends were like, "That's so cool," and I think my parents as well, because I mean, they run their own business. They're like, I think the first thing that came to them was, I don't think they really cared about what I did. They're just like, "Oh, you can make money from this. You can make money from your hobby. It's a very low, it feels like, you just need your laptop, good Wi-Fi and that." And they're like, "Oh, this is actually very smart. Yeah, that's great." So I mean, my dad's, I suppose, superstitious. He believes in this stuff. And my mum's starting to believe in this stuff too, because now we're getting a bit more spiritual activity as well. I think my mum's been getting some from my grandparents, so her parents, which is nice, but she's not scared. Like, she just knows it's them, and then she just goes back to sleep. Yeah, so surprisingly, I've received a bit of support, but it is true. I think when I do go out, if I'm meeting new people, sometimes I don't know how they're going to react. Surprisingly, most of them have been open, but I have come across some people who've made weird faces, and I'm like, okay, those are not my people, and I just walk away.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember a few years ago going to this, I don't know why I went, but anyway, there was obviously a lesson somewhere, but it was like this business, like speed date thing, but it was like a business thing. So you stood in the circles, but it was not really in the spiritual, it was more in the businessy space. And you kind of just did like a 1 minute like spruik of yourself. And like a few people I spoke to were like, "Oh, that's super interesting." But I just remember this. It was actually a lady. Like, the men were actually quite like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like, not dismissive, but curious.
Yeah.
But I did have one lady who I kind of did like a 1 minute spruik, and she just like stood there and folded her arms, and she just looked at me. And like, did not say a word, like did not say one word to me. Actually, she just turned away from me.
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's an interesting." And I kind of maybe this is me, maybe I shouldn't judge, but I was thinking maybe she was more in the religion space. So maybe that it sort of triggered her a little bit. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But yeah, I have had some interest. I remember one taxi driver take me somewhere, saying like, just making, random conversations, saying to me, "Oh, like, what do you do for work?" And like I said what I do, and he was like, "Why would you want to do that?" I just remember the way he said it to me. It was so weird. Actually, I might have said to him, like, "I talk to dead people for a living." Maybe I did say that. I mean, like, I probably did, right? It was like, why would you want to do that? Like,
it's fun.
That, sometimes there is a shock value, right? If you're feeling a bit like mischievous, like, that's what I would say to people. But
yeah, I've had, I think I had one lady, probably, she asked me if I did magic tricks. So I was like,
oh,
yeah, she was a psychologist, so she was like, "Do you do magic tricks in that?" And I was just looking at her like, is she joking, or is she like? And like, I was just looking at her like she was like, I was just looking at her. I was like, because I can't hide my expressions. I'm just like, would you even bother hiding it?
It's funny, isn't it? And I think honestly, a lot of people are like that because they just don't really understand it. So it like takes them off guard, and they're like, "Oh, that I don't know what to say back to that, or I don't know how to respond to that," because I feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I think I see it as like a filter. It's like, okay, next, you get that out of the way. But so far, most people, they've been open. They may not understand. I don't understand it, but can you tell me more about it? Like, I don't know much.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, that's okay. That's cool. Like, I'm not expecting you guys to know much about it, because I didn't know much about it not very long ago.
Yeah.
So feel free to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, sometimes it's a good place to educate people as well, if they're curious, right? If, what it actually is, or what actually happens, because I think being a psychic medium is very different to what people think that being a psychic medium might be, because they have the reference of, things like movies, like Sixth Sense, with all the things happening. Like, do those things happening? Well, sometimes they do, yes, but that's not generally the norm, right? Like, we're not, like, I don't know about you, but I'm not walking around seeing dead people everywhere I go, because like that would just be a bit too overwhelming for me.
I would be too scared to. No, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with hearing you guys. I just don't want to see you.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think it is, it's a nice way to like let people know that there doesn't have to be any fear as well, around this kind of communication. Like we're not doing the devil's work. We're not. We're actually just communicating soul to soul with people who are just no longer in their physical body. And I guess, some people might have problems getting their head around that, and and I think that's okay. And I think they're not meant to know. Like, I think for me, when I went through my journey, I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like I wanted to bring everyone with me. I'm like, it's really cool over here. Like, come and see what's happening. But then realizing, oh, actually, that's not everyone's path either. So, and respecting that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think I suppose even going through this journey, sometimes you figure out who the people are that are for you and who are not. So like I was saying, it's a fantastic way to filter people out, because you just show up and you're like, okay, great, bing, bing, bing. So you don't need to do it manually. It just sorts it out for you.
Yes, it just sheds itself. Yeah, so true, so true. So tell my audience, I've loved this just chat. We've gone completely off topic, but I love it. So tell me, where can people find you? I will put your links in the show notes. Like, how do you help people? What are people most commonly coming to you for? Like, I know that you mentioned the type of people that are coming to you. What do you feel that your unique gift is of, helping other people with?
I think for me, I think my approach is quite non-judgmental. I've had people come to me for, a variety of things, and they're like, I can't talk to anyone about it because I'm going to be judged. I'm like, whatever you say here is fine. Like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you. If anything, it's like, this is for you. This is meant to benefit you, this reading. So I do help with things like, the common stuff people come to me for: love, career, spiritual guidance is quite a big one. People like to look into their past lives. That's actually really cool. I can look at the century, the country. Why is it relevant? Because we would have had lots of past lives, but I zero in on the one that's most relevant. Or if you feel an affinity to like a particular country. People like, I don't know, I've always felt an affinity there. We can look into that as well. It's pretty cool. And also, people go through spiritual awakenings. Yeah. And I also do help people explore their psychic mediumship abilities too. If that's something you feel called to, it doesn't matter if you're in the closet, that's fine. I'm here to embrace those in and out of the closet. Doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. So it's really just to hold space for them in a non-judgmental way. And I think my goal is just to make sure at the end of the reading, you come out or reading or coaching, you come out with more clarity, feeling empowered and more confident. I love it at the end of a reading when you see their smile, they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Okay. Like you can just you can even feel it from then. You're like, great. Okay. That's when I've done my job. That's when, it's a job well done. Yeah. So I think, my approach is just, non-judgmental. It's just there. And I'm not going to be like, I don't believe in sugarcoating. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, sometimes I get people go, will my ex come back? Which I'm sure you would have had questions like that as well. And I'm like, no, but... And then I want to see, is there someone else coming forward for them? Is there someone else coming? So at least, they've got something to look forward to, hope. I think that's really important, just to remind them.
Beautiful.
And just to remind them everything's going to be okay. And sometimes most of the time, they know what the answer is. They just need confirmation. That's really just what it is. Yeah, because at the end of the day, your intuition tells it all. And sometimes you just need someone to hold your hand and tell you it's okay. You've got this.
Yeah, sometimes you just need someone to mirror it back to you as well. We were just talking about that yesterday when I was voice messaging a friend about something that was going on. And I was like, oh, now like you just mirrored that back to me. Like I can see it so much more clearly, And I think, I love that you said it's almost like what comes in for me when you were saying that. It's like my door's always open, and you're going to leave with the more empowerment than you came in. And And I think that's the biggest thing with doing this work is we don't want people to rely on us. Like we don't want people to have to come back to us every week and go, like, is my ex coming back? You know, what we want to do is be able to support people with clarity so we can, you know, send them off, you know, to that next phase of their journey, feeling more empowered in themselves, you know, and I think in a nutshell, that's basically what you just said in the array of things that you help people with. That's the promise or the clarity, right, of working with you and coming to you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've got a website with all my offerings. You can find me at SamanthaTheClair.com or on Instagram at Samantha the Clair and TikTok at Samantha the Clair. Those are the places to find me. Or if you want to shoot me an email, it's admin@SamanthaTheClair.com. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll pop all those in the show notes as well so that they can just click on the links and find you really, really quickly. So we'll leave with a clarifying question. You know, looking back, if you could go back and speak to the version of yourself who thought she was crazy, what would you tell her today?
Girl, you ain't crazy. You're going to make money from doing this and you're going to love what you do and be good in it and help people. That's what I'd be saying. I think I'd be really shocked. Sorry, I'd be like, what?
I love that. I love it. Amazing. I've loved our chat. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with, Samantha?
I think I'd say follow your dreams, follow the nudge. And even if it doesn't make sense, because honestly, intuition and spirit never makes sense. It's always the things that don't make sense that are fact for some reason. Yeah, it may not make sense yet, but it will later. It will eventually fall into place for any of you who are feeling just as lost as I was 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, what an inspirational story. And to think that was actually only 3 years ago is absolutely crazy, really, you know, to where you are now and what you're doing. So a big congratulations to you for that. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on and have a chat with me this morning. And I will speak to you very soon.
Thanks, and thanks for being a part of my journey too.
Oh, thank you. Stop it. Alrighty. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World. If something in today's episode has sparked something within you and you are curious about your own spiritual gifts, then check out my website on how I can support you. If you have your own story to share, then please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to support me, you can subscribe, leave a review, or simply share this with a friend. So until next time, trust yourself, trust spirit, and keep listening to the whispers from the universe. Bye for now.